We will reconvene commission meeting at this time. If you'll please find your seats. At this point, we will resume the public hearing for those of you who were not in the audience earlier. In a moment, you'll have an opportunity to speak in favor of or in opposition to the remaining rezoning resolution. The chair does request, in the interest of the commissioner's time and yours, that you limit the number of people who speak to 3 or 4, and that you limit your remarks to no more than 2 minutes, please. So at this time, I will recognize Ms. Martha Wilkinson, our Director of Planning, and she will go to the remaining rezoning resolution. Ms. Martha.
This resolution is for Mr. J. Philip Sneed. He is requesting that 47.36 acres located on Buzzard Creek Road, the 8th Civil District, the 7th Voting District, have a change in zoning from AG2 to I2, which is heavy industrial. The Planning Commission vote was 7 against, 1 abstain, and 1 absent.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this resolution? If you will, please rise and state your name for the clerk. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Cheryl Eby, and I live at 4912 Buzzard Creek Road. My entire property runs the entire north side of the property being rezoned. I'm very concerned about having a sawmill as my neighbor. Not at all concerned about the Downs. They're here to they're here to start a business, but this is my home. I am concerned about the size of the sawmill. I'm concerned about all of the things that I wrote to every one of the commissioners about. All of the issues that I put in there, we've already discussed at the Planning Commission meeting. My request to the county commissioners is that you honor that vote that they took, which was 7 against. They actually deferred the vote until they got more information. They were given more information when it was presented a second time. They asked a lot of questions. A lot of people had a chance to speak, and they still voted against it. That is their charter, to vote for the health, safety, and welfare of Robertson County when they're planning. And they voted, they actually stated that they had no problem with the sawmill in Robertson County, but they had a problem with that location, because that location had a lot of problems with that particular area. And we did list them. I'm not going to waste your time by listing them. I am, however, going to request that you honor that and not go against what they disapproved, because they actually followed the Tennessee Charter. They actually followed the Robertson County Growth Plan. They considered all of the things that in our community and that all the residents were concerned about, and they still voted against. I thank you for letting me speak. And
thank you. Is someone else who'd like to speak to this resolution? Yes, sir.
I'm Bob Steve. I've been a resident of Cedar Hill for about 40 years, on property in the area. I would just like to read a little statement. Phil owns this property. My brother Phil owns the property, and I think he should have the freedom to do what he wants to with it, to hold it, sell it, whatever he sees fit. I see your job as commissioners is to determine whether the sale of the sawmill, and sawmill are in the best interest of the community. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that for sure, but I don't think it would harm the community. Cedar Hill is a community, as a community, is stagnant and is in need of some form of commerce for stimulation and growth. Mr. Dallin has a plan for that growth. The opposition to this plan has listed several reasons for its position. Noise. I assume that a sawmill makes noise, but I understand it's to be enclosed and According to Mr. Dallin, the amount of noise is minimal. Heavy traffic in the area. It's a farming community. I would say that the truck traffic wouldn't be any more significant than agricultural traffic, combines and the like in the area. Maybe even not as disruptive as the agricultural traffic. Water pollution is an issue that they mentioned. I don't think that it's been established that it is a polluter. If there's evidence to the contrary, I think they should let us know that. Maybe Mr. Dallin can address it. I feel that if Mr. Dallin addresses these concerns to the satisfaction of you, the county commissioners, he should be allowed to own and operate his business at this location.
Thank you, Mr. Sneed. Someone else to speak to this resolution? Yes, sir.
Michael Kennedy. I live on Kennedy Drive off Buzzard Creek Road. All of this is true, but Mr. Dallin is really going to stimulate the economy because he is going to be a major contributor to American limestone. This soil is a Sango, Guthrie, Dixon Silk loam. It will not perk. It will not withstand the amounts of heavy rains. You're going to have lots of runoff. And if we have a good winter and we have a hard freeze and thaws, he's going to invade another country because he's going to sink to China.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak to this resolution? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Martha Arrington, a lot of you know me as Muffy. I'm a commissioner in Cedar Hill. I'm also on the water board in Cedar Hill. Cedar Hill representative of Cedar Hill Water Board. I have a letter, one thing that's been discussed, that it is going to cause us to lose water pressure. I talked with the head engineer. He assures us not. I have a letter that I promised with you all, stating this fact from the water board. I also have a brief little note that Christy Owens to do tonight was our Cedar Hill meeting, and I left a little early. She asked me to read this note for her. As a 40-year resident of the city of Cedar Hill, I have seen many changes within the city limits. Unfortunately, I have seen Cedar Hill decline over the last 20 years. There are several reasons for this downturn. As older citizens have passed away, their homes have been left unattended or involved in rental property, which decreases our tax base. With little property taxes coming into the city funds, we have depended highly on beer sales from Herbert's Market and Cedar Hill Market. Over the last year, we have seen a decline in both property taxes and beer sales. The city of Cedar Hill needs an infusion of new businesses and citizens willing to help us rebuild the city. I believe that John Dowden and his sawmill will help the city of Cedar Hill and Robertson County. John Dowden's sawmill will employ 20+ people who will stop in Cedar Hill markets to buy gas and food. Loggers and buyers will travel to Cedar Hill coming from I-24 and I-65, thus traveling through Robertson County. This will bring consumers into all of Robertson County, which will benefit all of us. Thus far, Mr. Dowling has helped the city of Cedar Hill with our new pro football team. I envision Mr. Dowling continuing to support our city and the county. After personally speaking to Mr. Dowling about his plans for putting in green printed EPA-approved sawmill, I believe that Mr. Dowling and his sawmill will only be beneficial to the city of Cedar Hill and Robertson County. Please vote in support of John Dowling sawmill. Sincerely, Christy Owens, Cedar Hill City Commission. And I would like to say, you all are sitting are elected just like I'm elected. And I see my job is doing what's good for the city. Cedar Hill needs our students. We are falling. We are losing ground. We're going to disappear. We don't have to. And this is one thing I think really will help us maybe get our feet back from under us and keep us from disappearing off of us.
Thank you, ma'am. I saw one other hand a moment ago. Yes, sir.
I'm James Newberry. I live on Buzzard Creek Road. Next house below the sea. John Dowling already operates the sawmill in Robertson County. I don't foresee that is going to really stimulate the economy for our area to that great of extent. The city of Cedar Hill has an ordinance against sawmills. They would not allow any new sawmills inside the city limits. And that's why we're here. You know, they're trying to push it off on us. That's almost 50 acres of ground, rezoned to heavy industrial. With equipment, I understand, you know, the mill will be inside a building. But the trucks, the loaders will not be inside the building. 6 days a week, 5.5 days a week. And the road, we run large trucks too, we farm. And if you meet a truck or car turning out on Buzzard Creek from Highway 41, you've got to stop on the highway and let that vehicle out before you can make a turn and get in. It's just not enough room. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir. On the right. Yes, sir.
My name is Michael Redfern. I live at 4925 Buzzard Creek. We've joined the property we want to rezone. And y'all probably know I'm a logger myself. I cut timber, my family's cut timber since 1900. And I haven't had a minute of trouble with a sawmill. But the problem I have is what you want to zone it to. Because if this sawmill works 5 years and then quits, then we can be left with anything over on the 50 acres. There's no limit to what you can put on it, according to what the zoning and planning board told. Now, if Mr. John Dowland's character ain't in question here, he's a good man, and I believe he'll do what he says he'll do. But if something happens 10 years down the road, we can have a junkyard, or we can have a garbage transfer place, or we can have anything. And I got no problem with sawmill, I told John that. But y'all open up 50 acres right at the edge of Cedar Hill for anything to be put on in the next whatever. And once y'all rezone it like you're talking, there's no limit to what can be done to it, and nothing other folks that live around it can do about it. We've got to be in our field, bush hog or whatever, and look and listen to whatever they put over there, there ain't a thing we can do about it. And I want to ask every one of y'all, would y'all want a car across your step beside y'all's house? And there's a lot of folks around here that don't want to. I have no trouble with the sawmill, but the zoning you want to do, I do.
Thank you, sir. There was one other hand, and we'll wrap it up. Yes, sir.
My name is John Dowland. I'm opposed to sawmill. I like to put it in, hire 20, 25 people, state-of-the-art facility. Mr. Kennedy spoke of the rock I'd have to buy. I plan on spending $100,000 on the groundwork and not making a mess out of it. The sawmill will be fully enclosed, fairly quiet. It will make some noise, but I got a sawmill now, 40 miles away from it, you can't even hear it, and it's an open building. I would, I've had some things about traffic. School bus stops at the daycare. The daycare lady has no problem with it. School bus stops at my sawmill every day. When school's in, my kids get off the bus there. We're on Turnerville Road. We've never had an issue. The road on Turnerville Road is nowhere near as good as Buzzard Creek or as wide as 41. But I heard issues of sawdust runoff. At any given time, I might have 10 loads of sawdust at my sawmill. Spread across Robertson County, there's no exaggeration. There's thousands of loads of sawdust laying on the ground. Water's running through. Chemicals, there's been as some people said, we use no chemicals in the sawmill process. If lumber shows up at a lumber yard and it's got chemicals on it, they'll turn it away. It's a natural process. Fire hazard. Miss Evie spoke of fire hazard at the planning and zoning meeting, and she had good facts, except they were for dry sawdust. Dry sawdust is very flammable. In the green log, the sawdust is green, and it does not burn very good. It's not flammable anyway. And I understand Mr. Redfern's concern, but I plan on doing nothing but sawmilling. I've got very good backing behind me, and plan on doing this for the rest of my life. And I got 3 kids that I like to do after I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will close the public hearing at this point and bring resolution letter C back to the body for your considerations, questions, or comments.
Is this question to
Ms.
Ms.
Doris.
Is this question to her or this?
Yes. No, for Ms. Martha.
Ms. Mark, why do we need it zoned this heavy of industrial to
Yes, sir.
support a sawmill?
The planner and the staff has looked at this, and this is the zone that it would fit into, the appropriate zone for it.
Okay. And you might not be the one. It might have to go back to the lady from the elected official from Cedar Hill. Do we know why they choose not to put a sawmill in Cedar Hill? I've seen the old one that's set up there, and I wouldn't want to live beside it myself. But Can somebody ask me the question why they chose not to have it in Cedar Hill?
I couldn't answer that.
Ms. Harrington, well, I'll give you 30 seconds if you can.
Okay, I'll try. That ordinance was put in many years ago, and it is not, we are in the process of getting rid of it. There will not be an ordinance against it. We did not have time to annex that in because the land was already ready for a farm to use. And at the time that we started working on this, we only had 30 days before he needed to put his property. And we could not get it annexed in that time, so we ended up, I don't know if you know Mr. Jagle, Gary Jagle was an impasse guy. He said the best thing we do is go ahead and get the zoning done and then we can address the annex later. But he told them we absolutely no problem annexing it whether it belonged to Mr. Sneed or Mr. Babb. So that is what it is, and like I said, it's not real big known fact, but that is going to be by the wayside. Because what he's doing, the reason that was done, when we discussed it was to put stipulations on the upkeep of it. It wasn't supposed to be like it came out working. And the other commissioner and I both agree that was not what we discussed. I hate to say the mayor that did it is dead now, so we can't talk with him. And I spoke with the lawyer and asked her if she worded or did he. And she said she suggested wording, but he actually did the wording. And I told some of the gentlemen that I thought it was my fault, but I didn't look into it earlier. And until this came up, I didn't go get the ordinance and look and see what was written up. But it is not signed by any of us. The dates on it is not right. And the other commissioner and I both agree that this is not what we discussed because the way this word, it says no small sawmills, lumber yards, or industry. I said that would cut out the Lowe's, Home Depot, Ace Hardware, anything that's selling lumber. And there's no way that I would say, no, we don't want a business to see it. So,
Thank you, ma'am.
we're in the
Thank you.
process of really looking at that.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Adcock.
Is there a particular reason that we're doing the whole 50 acres?
That's what Mr. Sneed requested, Lanny. He just, when he came in, made application, staff asked him, could he work a sawmill or sell it to Mr. Dowling with less property, and he said this was the property he needed.
The commissioners have a question or comment.
I got one more.
Commissioner Doris, let's.
I don't know if this is going, who would answer this one, but do we have, you know, the one down on Sawmill caught fire this year. Do we have the water infrastructure down that way to support another one? If it does catch its fire, do we have the infrastructure for water to be based down that way?
That would be a, Ms. Muffy, public hearing's over. Public hearing's over. I'm sorry. We got off track a moment ago, Commissioner Doris.
We brought that up in the planning, and I know that there's water available, but that was for residential, if I wasn't. Has
That's
that
correct.
changed? Has something been brought forth that said that they could support?
Nothing has been furnished to me except for residential use.
And I believe I said this in planning, I don't want to see Mr. Dowling spend a lot of money until it's rezoned, if it gets rezoned. But we need to know that we can take care of a problem with that sawmill as far as water supply. It never got any further than the request when we put it off the first time.
The commissioners.
Ms. Moffitt,
Yes.
was there any other reasons given at planning and zoning by the board to deny this rezoning? Did it just not meet the
Mr. Bryant,
criteria?
The commissioner, the planning commission did not voice their opinion. Mr. Larry DiOrio had more to say probably than anybody else, and water was a concern. But they did not make a statement publicly why they voted the way they did.
Just 7 against.
That's correct, and one abstained, and then one was absent.
Other questions, Commissioner? Question has been called for. So we need a motion and a second, don't we? We have a motion for approval.
Second.
A motion for approval. By Commissioner Jackson, it's a second. Second by, am I missing? Commissioner Vogel. So Well, the motion has been made and duly seconded. If you're in favor of this resolution, vote yes and confirm. If you're opposed, vote no and confirm at this time. There being 5 votes in favor, 17 opposed, and 2 absent, I declare that resolution has failed. Thank you, Ms. Martha. We recognize now Mr. Bob Hogue with the Planning Office and Mr. R.D. Huffines for amending building codes for Robertson County and adopting building codes for Robertson County. Mr. Hogue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 resolutions here before you tonight. The first one is Resolution 0617-13045, and that's a resolution to amend the building codes of Robertson County. And whereas Robertson County Commission has adopted building codes to promote the general welfare of the citizens of Robertson County, and whereas the current building codes need periodic updating to remain in compliance with existing laws, and whereas the 2003 International Building Code, including Appendixes A through J as published by the International Code Council, and the 2003 International Residential Code, including Appendixes A through K as published by the International Code Council, is now considered outdated. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Robertson County Commission meeting in regular session that the 2003 International Building Code, including Appendixes A through J, be repealed, and the 2012 International Building Code, including Appendices A through J, be adopted and made a part of this resolution by reference in place pursuant to authority granted by Tennessee Annotated 51-116. Now, therefore, be it further resolved that the 2003 International Residential Building Code, including Appendixes A through J, be repealed, and the 2012 International Residential Code, including Appendixes A through J and M through P, be adopted and made a part of this resolution by reference in its place, except that the following sections: R313.2, 1 and 2 family dwellings, automatic fire systems, and Chapter 11, energy efficiency pursuant, be deleted. These that would be adopting it with the exception of those 2 sections. Now be it further resolved that the 2003 International Energy Conservation Code be adopted and made a part of this resolution by reference pursuant to authority granted by Tennessee Code. And basically, this resolution is to comply with the law about having the building code current within 7 years of the publication date, and from the comments that Mr. Huffines received when he had his 3 meetings with the members of the county commission. The second resolution.
Let's deal with the first resolution, Mr. Hogue. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Huffines for 3 different opportunities to bring us all up to speed on the changes that are being contemplated. So you've heard the resolution. You've had the resolution in your hands for a week now. Is there a motion for approval?
I move that they may be.
Have a motion for approval.
And I move that they be tabled.
Well, let's get a second first on. Let's get a second first. Is there a second?
I'd like to make a second
for the approval. Okay. All right. There's been a motion to table.
I move that we table it so we have time to review it.
I second it.
Have a motion to table and a second by Commissioner Farmer. Motion to table suspends debate. So this is a motion to table. If you're in favor of the motion to table, vote yes and confirm. If you oppose, vote no and confirm at this time. There being 17 votes in favor and 5 opposed and 2 absent, I declare that motion has been tabled. So, is there a reason to consider a second one at this time or not? Commissioner Adcock.
I was wondering, I know that this is pretty expensive, but is there a way that we can get a copy of this change? That the commissioners can look at? I know we've brought it up a couple of times, and we're not getting anywhere. I just wondered if maybe we could get it, on paper, maybe we can better understand.
May I? There's a publication that deals with nothing but the changes. Have you got it, RD?
I've got both copies.
But I got to tell you,
They're relatively expensive.
if,
Will this information be available online?
no, that's how they make their money. They sell the books. But
Okay.
honestly, if a layman picks it up, you would understand what you're looking at being in the industry. But if a layman picks it up, it's going to be just this side of Greek. There's not the changes the major changes that we cannot discuss since it was tabled would have taken the major problems out of the new code. And we are under constraint to have it within 7 years. We're getting dangerously close. Like I said, there's a lot of misconception, a lot of what needs to be taken out, but I guess that's for another day now.
Mr. Huffines?
I'm just going to tell them, Mr. Chairman, that there's 162 pages in the transition from the 2012 IBC from the 6th, and there is 240 pages in the transition of the residential code. These are, I don't remember what they cost, but they're probably in the range of $30 or $40 a piece for each book, times ever how many copies we would need. So that's kind of...
Are those copies available in your office? Are they in the planning office?
I have one each. I mean, we bought one for us, so I'd have something to study from.
They'd be available if commissioners wanted to come to the planning office and review those.
Sure.
Did the planning commission vote on this? Y'all?
Yes.
Commissioner Doyle.
I've just got one concern. When are we going to bring this back up? And
you'll have the
who
opportunity.
hasn't had the opportunity to talk to these people and go to these classes that have a problem with what's going on?
There were 3 opportunities to do that.
And, you know, we can't put our heads in the sand and act like it's going to go away, because it's not. We've got to, by state statute, adopt something soon.
Chair would anticipate it be taken off the table at the July meeting. I can't guarantee that, but I think that would be the appropriate time. That would give everyone one more month to review those booklets if they so wish. Any other questions of Mr. Holt or Mr. Huffines? So we'll anticipate it being taken off the table at the July meeting. Anything else? Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, we're now ready for new resolutions. Recognize Commissioner Adcock for continuing budget and tax rate for year beginning July 1, 2013.
Fellow commissioners, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, this resolution is to adopt a continued budget for the tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2013, and to authorize the insurance of a tax anticipated note for the county of Robertson County. I make a motion we approve.
And so second. Second by Commissioner Jackson. Any discussion?
I need to read the number of it.
Sorry?
I didn't read the number
of the resolution. Okay.
0617130447.
If you're in favor of this resolution, vote yes and confirm. If you're opposed, vote no and confirm at this time. Being 22 votes in favor, none opposed, and 2 absent, I declare that resolution approved. Commissioner Adcock.
This resolution is 0617130448. This resolution is amending the budget for Robertson County, Tennessee. It's a balanced budget amendment. It's for the schools. I make a motion we approve.
And is there a second? Second by Commissioner Jackson. Any discussion? Question's been called for. If you're in favor of this resolution, vote yes and confirm. If you're opposed, vote no and confirm at this time. Commissioner Jackson, are you still voting? There being 22 votes in favor, none opposed, and 2 absent, I declare that resolution approved. Madam Clerk, is Commissioner Adcock doing the third resolution as well? Okay, who's? Commissioner Couch. Reserve account line item for the Robertson County Highway Department Fund. Commissioner Bobby Couch.
I don't think you gave me that one, I'll read it. Lanny's got it.
Commissioner Adcock, you have that one?
Oh, I've got the sheriff.
Do you have a copy, Commissioner? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Clerk, fellow commissioners, honored guests, I'd like to present to you Resolution 061713049. It's a resolution to establish a reserve account line item for the Robertson County Highway Department. Get a second.
And the second by Commissioner DeOrio. Any discussion? Seeing none. If you're in favor of this resolution, vote yes and confirm. If you're opposed, vote no and confirm at this time. There being 22 votes in favor, none opposed, and 2 absent, I declare that resolution approved. As Commissioner Adcock is coming for, do you have number 4? Who has number 4, Madam Clerk? I'm off script.
Somebody's got to do it.
As Commissioner Adcock is coming around, Chair is reminded that the book of Isaiah entreats us to come, let us reason together. And so, as we enter into this, I hope that you'll enter into it with this spirit. And before Commissioner Adcock reads the resolution, which he'll do in just a moment, Chair would entertain a motion to make the county attorney a member of the body for the purpose of addressing this issue. Motion by Commissioner DeOrio and second by Commissioner Brown. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. So, Mr. Richard, you are now a member of this body, and we'll ask Commissioner Adcock, if he will, to read the resolution.
This resolution is 061713-050. It's a resolution for the intent to include certain 911 joint dispatch money in the 2013 and 14 fiscal budget for Robertson County. I make a motion. Do you already make a motion?
Yes, he's already a member.
All right.
So let's get a second for Commissioner Adcock's motion, second by Commissioner Bryant. So, Mr. County Attorney, if you will, come and refresh our memories and give us some history of where we find ourselves.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Commission, Madam Clerk, members of the audience, our long saga is nearing some type of conclusion. I think that's the words for the evening. And as you know, we talked about this at your special meeting recently. The Joint Study Committee, composed of 911, White House, Springfield, and Robertson County representatives, have been meeting through the winter and spring. We're down to budget time. And I think maybe I sent a letter to each of you with some figures that Jody and Finance had given me, I think approved also by the Sheriff and Mr. Bradley. The issue is where we go from here about our joint dispatch program. Recently, City of Springfield voted to withdraw from our joint dispatch. They sent a letter to the former county dispatchers saying that effective July 1, Springfield was making a change and that those dispatchers would no longer be employed by Springfield. And you might remember that with the assistance of Kathy and the 911 board several years ago, probably about 3 years ago, because we wanted all the benefits and pay to be the same, White House and Springfield sent their people to Springfield so there would be one uniform pay schedule for everybody at the 911 building. which certainly was the right thing to do at the time. Where we are now is that when Springfield voted to do that, then your special meeting ended up by approving the transfer of those former county employees over to the E911 board in the district. The 911 board met that next morning and voted to formally accept those dispatchers as their employees. I think Jody has worked with Springfield representatives and attempting to get everything lined up about making the transfer. I guess the letter of motion or the resolution of intent is for tonight to put another $130,000 into this pot to continue joint dispatch. The dilemma is that Springfield's voted to cut our people loose in a few days. 911 has voted to pick them up because they had to have a place to go. We couldn't leave the county dispatchers in limbo and without a dispatch ability. So the Springfield letter that basically terminated our old county people and unraveled the joint dispatch, something had to be done. So what's been done is, I guess effective July 1, they'll go over to 911 employee. And the money in the additional money that you'll vote upon tonight as a resolution of intent would help fund that project. Somebody's asked me, well, what is Springfield that meets tomorrow night? And White House, I think, meets Thursday night. What if they vote to undo what they've done? And that is keep everybody together like we've been for the last 2 or 3 years. Robertson County would put more money into the pot, which the consultants say we should do. I think we finally kind of come to grips that that's where we're at on the money. And I know the Springfield representatives would like to see Springfield, White House, and the county all go to 911. They all agree that's a good move. I think everybody agrees that upon the retirement of the current director, that a new professional director should be hired. And I think everybody agrees that there should be a wage study because we can probably trim some labor by attrition and reduce the cost of the entire 911 dispatch. So those are things the study committee all came up with. I think everybody's in agreement with those things. But what you have before you tonight is it is what it is, and at least unless Springfield changes their direction tomorrow night and says, well, now that we know you're going to give us the $130,000, we want to keep on going, and then in a few months we'll all go to 911 together. I think that's been the recent Springfield opinion. And frankly, had we not got the letter effective July 1, Kathy, I think that was the game plan. So I think the idea was we'd all go together, but the urgency and the dilemma occurred when the old county people got their letter of termination. And we really don't know that anything different will happen tomorrow night at the Springfield meeting. So it's kind of gone back and forth somewhat of recent, but I think that's where you're at tonight.
Mr. Doyle.
Question. And I've not been at the meetings. What, on the second year, what happens if they decide to stay with us? Are they looking for some kind of guarantee? Are they looking for more funding, or do we need to make a recommendation or a amendment?
If we went back and we all stayed together temporarily and we kept it like it is tonight, which everybody works for Springfield, and with the idea that we'd make a move once we got the work study and a new director hired, perhaps, and then all go in a transition at one time, the county, White House, and Springfield to 911. I think what Springfield wants to see, in the words of one of their representatives, is we appreciate the extra money the county is putting in, but they don't want to have a big fuss and fight this time next year over the same thing. And they say we've all had that formula and the consultants, and we know where we are. We all hope to reduce the size of the pot. We reduce the size of the pot, it reduces what we'll have to put in this time next year. But I think Springfield, some representatives have said, we'd really like to see that, but we kind of want the county to go ahead and say now that we'll fall in line with what that formula says this time next year, so we don't start fussing over the same dollar.
So CTAS and MTAS both jointly came up with this number?
Yes. Yeah. And the study committee, of course, is familiar with that.
Commissioner Eden.
Just ask again. In your opinion, is $130,000 the number?
Nobody knows, but that is half of what at one time Springfield wanted. And there's some sentiment that that would be a number that would keep us together if we all chose to stay together for the time being. But until you vote tonight to say that, we don't know what Springfield and White House will say.
Second question. If that was half the amount, Springfield's number did include some retroactive money that they wanted to pay in arrears, go back a year or two, right?
They asked for that, but I think by all accounts, that's off the table. I think you've expressed your wish on that, and I don't think there'll be any money paid back to Springfield, and I think they probably understand that.
But that number that you said $130,000 was half of included some retroactive money?
No.
Okay.
Oh, it includes the yearly going forward additional money the consultant said.
If we give them the,
Commissioner Duggar.
if we give them the 130,000 and then we start with this formula, is the 130,000 every year plus whatever the formula is?
Now, the 130,000 would be an initial deposit, if you will, into our percentage share. And then if it stayed exactly dollar for dollar last year, the formula would tell us that we need another 120 on top of that to get up to our share. Keep in mind, we're dispatching for some of the other cities, and we're dispatching for our volunteer people, but historically we've paid the tab to do that. The real dilemma you've got tonight is that the way things are with Springfield is this idea about staying together and our people staying at Springfield is not what they've said at their last meeting. They voted to turn these people loose. And you voted in the 911 board to take them on because they had a place to land. They had to have an employer. So I don't know if you want to get into tonight the issue of what if Springfield says tomorrow night, well, now that we've seen the county is more willing to step up pursuant to the consultants, we really all want to stay together for a few months and don't bolt over to 911. Let's stay together, everybody be Springfield employee, and we'll work on the new director, we'll work on the wage study, and in a very few months we'll all go together. But unfortunately, that's not what's on your agenda tonight. And you won't know till tomorrow night if that's even an option with Springfield.
Commissioner Brown.
I'm sorry, I don't have all the history. I came in after this was joint. But my understanding, and I stand to be corrected obviously, is that we are funding the same number of people that we did when we went into this joint venture, and we're paying for that number of people. So I guess in my mind is I assume we're funding at an appropriate level all the employees that are going into 9/11 at this point in time, with this additional 130 potentially above and beyond what are actual employees. And then secondly, I assume we had adequate service for our dispatch prior to joining at the funding levels back then. Or did we have some inefficiencies within our ranks prior to going. I mean, I'm trying to get in my mind how we went from one and funding our employees as county employees and then went over here and then saying there's a discrepancy when evidently we were funding it okay before we were being joint together.
And you get into an apple and an orange discussion. Springfield says that there were 5 or 6 people that didn't come over, and that's how they say they got upside down. And the consultant says that they are a little upside down. And we say that those people were doing other functions, and some of those people had shared job responsibilities. And what that means is it makes it impossible to know where the start line and where the finish line is. And that's a dilemma, but there's no answer to that good question.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ray.
Is there a big discrepancy in the amount of calls or something, that the reason that this got all tangled up?
Yes, there is.
Well, I know that the bigger percentage of the people that we've got in jail are from Springfield, so I don't know where the calls are coming from. That's what I...
Commissioner Ray, the chair would point out that I think the position of Springfield and White House is that they are helping us subsidize the cost of dispatch to the smaller cities and to the volunteer departments. Springfield represents about 25% of the calls. Their position is they should be paying 25% of the cost. When you factor in the county calls plus the smaller cities in the department, that represents about 61% of the cost. So we know that sooner or later, whatever that cost is, we are going to be paying 61% of it. So I think that this is just an attempt for us to reasonably get to that point. Mr. Matt Brown.
But Mr. Executive, I assume we were covering that 61% just fine before we went in with them.
We were covering them, but we were not assessing the smaller cities.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but from a finance standpoint, we were covering them just fine before we went in, and so I'm somewhat still confused about the funding thing, because as I do realize that does make some sense from a equation standpoint, but it seems to me that and maybe it'll be resolved in the consultant or the hired gun that we bring in with that, but it seems to me that there is definitely duplicity in either employment or something, because it's not equaling out. If we could cover it for less money before we joined, and now it's costing us more money since we've joined, there's a for that 61%.
I think all parties agree that we need a top-to-bottom staffing review, and I'll just mention this one point that's been mentioned innumerable times, and that is that currently we keep the same number of dispatchers there around the clock. Well, if you look at the charts, you'll see that between midnight and 5 a.m. there are very few calls generally, but we have the same number of dispatchers there that you would have at 8 o'clock at night where there's considerable calls. So hopefully that's the kind of thing the consultant can help us hammer out.
Right, and so then the only other thing, and maybe it's a political football, is do we have the stomach for making those hard decisions, or at least 9/11 dealing with that if we are overfunding employees and making the appropriate issues? Because it seems like not my employees, not your employees, we're just kind of holding hands and saying, looking the other way. Thank you.
I guess as a final comment, you've got a little dilemma about a vote tonight, it seems to me. And the dilemma is that really the resolution that's before you talks about this other 130,000, but now the way it's worded is that's going to go to 911, because that's where you voted our old people can land, and 911 has voted to take them. And right now, that is the only game in town. There's not another ball game tonight. Now, this time tomorrow night, when the city of Springfield meets, they may say, well, gee, Robertson County's really going to put more money into the pot. That's what we wanted to see. We want to now all stay like we are and do this cohesive going over to 911, all of us together, do the study, do it in October, November. But that's not what's on your plate for tonight. That game hasn't started. So you're in a little bit of, you've only got one issue that you can address. I don't know if you want to get into the discussion about, well, what if Springfield does this? And what if White House does this week?
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to get into what ifs, but is our county attorney telling us we need to table this?
Well,
Or amend?
If not, then let's vote.
Can we amend?
I'm going to recognize Commissioner Adcock and then Commissioner DeOrio.
Kathy, myself, and Mr. Bowens have been in all these discussions, as Mr. Bradley has, and we've been back and forth with the city of Springfield, hoping we can negotiate this out. The one thing that bothers me with $130,000, if like you was talking about, if they vote tomorrow night and they say, hey, let's stay in this for 6 more months, do we give them the $130,000 or do it still go to
They would want you to give it to them because we would stay all in the same pot and they're paying the bill.
Yeah, that's
That would
my
require a
concern.
separate resolution on this by this body, would it not?
Well, I'd like to see the city of Springfield and White House come all under 911 district. You know, we've been battling this back and forth and kicking it around for so long. What's going to happen, the way I see it, we're going to come up July 1st. Their meeting's tomorrow night. We don't know what they're going to do. We're going to have a special session or whatever if we send these people to 911. And I've talked with our finance director, and she says it would be easier to transfer these fewer numbers and get those in place and then bring the others in instead of bringing them all at one time. It might be easier to process. I see the county having to pay more money next year. I think it's coming. If we split it, like if we take our people July 1st, and the city of Springfield decides to come in October, and they have an employee to leave, and they've got one retiring, that's money that they won't be bringing over. They can take their savings from, where their employees are leaving. I can't tell anybody how to vote. I'm just telling you how I feel.
Commissioner Doria.
Well, again, we go back to, can we amend to put the wording in there if they vote to stay as a group, that the funding goes that way?
Well, you've already approved a resolution making the employees 911 employees. Right. 911 has accepted those, so I'm not sure you can retroactively redirect that money.
Can we table this motion?
If you do, you're going to push this into July 1st, and they're not going to have a job.
I'm satisfied with Mr. Hancock.
I think, and I'll just summarize this very briefly, and I'll recognize anyone that wants to be. We've been through this now for a number of months. When we brought in both CTAS and MTAS, and they come to the same conclusions, and we hear the same conclusions from the county attorney and what you heard from the mayor's office. No one can tell you tonight exactly how much extra that we'll have to ante up next year. Hopefully, it's going to be significantly less than that 130 or 120. The 130 was simply a way of meeting the cities halfway this first year, buying us a year, knowing that we probably would have to ante up more in the next year as a gesture of good faith. But I think that once we get that staffing study done and the actual director is on board, then we'll have much firmer ground. Kathy's board will have much firmer ground as to how they direct that. So that's kind of where we are tonight, and that's why I preface what I said tonight. This is something we have to enter into with our eyes wide open, but with a certain amount of faith that we can work out the details as we go forward. Mr. Brown.
I think my understanding, though, is our employees are actually covered in this, because regardless of the 130, we've moved them in and we're funding at least at the same level we did last year. So our employees will have a job and will be doing what they need to do regardless of the 130. I guess my question is what will the 130 be used for if no one else joins the...
Well, I guess part of that is my suggestion, 130. I didn't go quite that far. I think Mr. Bradley came up with 130 numbers. But my idea, when we were transferring to 911, was to put $70,000 in there to hire the director that could manage the people and move them to the hours and the shift that they need to be. That would cause us to have a savings. Because right now, like Clyde said, they're all working 5 men per shift, and there can be some savings out there, and everybody believes that. And I think everybody can share in the savings. but we've got to be able to have the money there to fund that person before we're going to get the savings.
Commissioner McAfee.
A couple questions. Why can't the county just take over the 911 and just say, okay, we're going to run it all for the whole county, cities and everything, and we're going to charge the cities a certain percentage based on their usage?
Well, the law doesn't allow us to do that.
Okay.
We can't tell the cities we're going to take over their dispatch.
And another question I had was, why do they have as many people on staff on a midnight shift as they do on a day shift?
Well, that's something that we're studying, and that's an obvious issue. But I guess getting to the head of the matter is what you've got on your agenda tonight is to go ahead and let the people go to 911. That's what everybody has agreed for now. And I think maybe it's been talked about that some of that additional money that they may need a part-time to a full-time person. That'll take care of the old county people. You'll have dispatch for the county, for the sheriff's office, for the EMS, for the volunteer departments, and for the cities that we've dispatched for. So that will cure it for tonight. The dilemma is that if Springfield turns back around, we might need to revisit this. But I'm hearing a sentiment to go ahead and move our people like the plan was and get on with it, and then see what happens with White House and Springfield as we go along.
Commissioner Jackson.
Can we take our, move them over to that, and then if Springfield wants in, just let Springfield pay us to do dispatching for them?
Well, they would pay into the 911 pot, and White House would pay into 911. In other words, 911 would become the pot like Springfield has been the pot for everybody up until now.
Commissioner Duggar.
How long would the $130,000 last in 911?
It should last for this coming fiscal year in addition to what we've already got budgeted. It'll get us through the year.
Commissioner Bowens. Question has been called for. Question has been called for.
Are we voting to send our people to 911?
You're voting in favor or opposed to this resolution. Now, as far as the chair's understanding, the vote to send our employees to 911 was taken last Tuesday. This is appropriating the $130,000. If you're in favor of this resolution, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no at this time. There being 20 votes in favor, 1 opposed, and 2 absent, I declare that resolution is approved. This resolution is grant sick time for the sheriff's office, and I'm going to recognize Commissioner Bobby Couch for this resolution.
I'd like to present Resolution 061713051. It's been amended. If I get a second.
A motion, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Bryant. Any discussion? Question been called for. If you're in favor of this resolution, vote yes and confirm. If you're opposed, vote no and confirm at this time. 22 votes in favor, none opposed, and 2 absent. I declare that resolution approved. Any old business to come before this body? Any, Commissioner Adcock? Mr. County Attorney, you're still a member of this body, and the question has been asked about the American Snuff building, the old Conwood building. Do you have any information in the last month or so about that building?
Chairman, I've talked to their representative. He has, that company has a real estate group that handles such things, and I'm still waiting to hear back from them.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Any new business to come before this body? I recognize Commissioner Gray for the election of notaries.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the notaries be approved for this June 17th
Second by Commissioner Bryant. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion to adjourn is in order. Had by Commissioner Wilson, second by Commissioner Haley. Commissioner Wilson asked me to remind you of the Martin's Chapel Barbecue, the historic 57th annual. This Saturday, 4 to 8.
4:30, I'll give you a 7. I don't know if you get there.